in 1884 matters, Ugandan young lads were being persecuted for the faith that they actually believed in, and many among them, the likes of Kizito Muto, Bruno Serunkuma, Andrea Kagwa, Matia Murumba, and many others were being martyred on this day in various places. Some of them were martyred in Munyonyo, others in Rubaga, others in Namugongo. Those who are able to reach Namugongo were also martyred there. Now, today is the day where we actually recollect, to remember today as we celebrate. We celebrate them because they actually made difference in the kingdom of Uganda, but later on, who knew? In around 1922, they were actually beatified in Rome, and thereafter they were also made to be in the realm of saints. Today is the celebration of Uganda Matters Day, and here on UBC we will be bringing you all the activities as they do roll out. Now, my name is Nkunda Felix. It is Good Morning Uganda, and of course we will be bringing you a lot of this. We'll be having interviews about Mother's Day, but even us will be discussing very much about Mother's Day. Most recently, we made a beacon of many activities in this country in terms of tourism, in terms of education, just to mention but a few. But more to that, I will be doing this with my colleagues, but nevertheless, I also would want to say good morning, Robert.
Lovely morning to you. Our lovely viewers, thank you so much for making it a day to begin your day with us from 6:30, and please keep it on UBC all the time. Yes, Felix, you talked about a very big achievement, a milestone in the spiritual realm of this country, which is 3rd June. The day is today where we are going to be celebrating Martyrs' Day. This is something that began as people who were seen as maybe rebellious and not loyal to their leadership at the time, but later it was a beacon and of course a revolving point for the spiritual bit of this country, where we now see that Christianity has been able to spread to all corners of this world, and the martyrs are not only celebrated in Uganda, but like my colleague said, this is something that is celebrated world over, and of late it has become more of a tourist attraction as well. Many people come into Uganda, and among the places they want to visit is Namugongo Martyrs Shrine. So UBC TV will be broadcasting live the events as they unfold there. Remember, we are in a time of COVID-19, and not everybody will access the shrines for the prayers. So limited guests, 200 will be there, but you can follow everything as it goes on, more so on our TV station and our radio stations. Will be broadcasting live those events. But Felix, away from looking at COVID-19, I was discussing with someone who told me this time we are missing business, because away from the spiritual realm of it, people are making a lot of money. People selling goods around the shrine, people selling t-shirts, so much business was happening. People even had built shelters there to accommodate some of the people who come and they want to spend some time even before attending the prayers. And even after the prayers, due to the jam and huge turn-up, many also spend more time sleeping around there in those accommodated places. And they'll tell me, Robert, we've lost this time round the economic factor of it, but we believe the spiritual bit of it, yes, we'll still join prayers on TV and radio.
Well, of course, spiritual matters may not be entirely attributed or actually gained with presence, but we believe that everywhere every Ugandan will be, they can actually tap into this day's celebrations as we do celebrate Uganda Matters. Now, actually, in the aftermath of the previous 22, there were additions, that is from the north. Remember, there was Gildo Irwa and of course Okelo there, who were added after. Now, most recently there have been attributions and discussions into adding a lady matter. If I'm not mistaken, the name is Nalumansi. But also the Muslim brothers have also come out time and again to make mention that they had matters. If you do take keen interest into the history, you'll also notice that some Muslims were killed, about 27 or even more, because of what they believed in, again, by the contradictions in the kingdom. Now, the history also suggests that at this time, there was a growing concern of the Arabs in the kingdom of Uganda, and that's why Kabaka, later on Mutesa, also invited the missionaries to see how he would counter the growing numbers of the Arabs. But nevertheless, that and more is what we'll be discussing later on, of course, in our production and in our show. But we do also come to you to bring notice of what is happening in the country in terms of COVID. The expectation is that the task team met, and we await to hear what they agreed upon. But as we do wait, we continuously encourage all our people there and our viewers and Ugandans to please maintain the SOPs. Now, social distancing, make sure you wear a mask and wash your hands. One of the educationists put it in 3 W's. Wear your mask, make sure you wash your hands, but also keep a distance. I don't know how that would turn into a W. But anyway, Robert, we had stories that were actually trending last night, the last 24
but even,
hours.
Felix, I love the W's you've put it for us. In journalism, you have the 5 W's and H there. But now, also something that we should include is mind your diet. Eat foods, take drinks that are very important to boost your immune system. And among these are Hallelujah products, Hallelujah ginger tea and Hallelujah turmeric drink. These are made with ingredients that are not only tasty for you to enjoy, but also boost your immune system. So as you look out for the soaps, as you ensure you have the mask, social distancing and all that, also ensure that what you drink, what you eat is going to boost your immune system. Ugandans always have a challenge when someone says eating good. We forget that you must eat foods that are important to your body, not just something that's just going to fill your body. So when it comes to drinks, Hallelujah products are there for you to consume. They'll greatly improve the strength of your white blood cells to fight a couple of diseases. Looking at some of the stories that happened in our last few bulletins, we begin it all with the shooting of the SGA guards that were killed. 2 security guards attached to SGA security group were shot at over the night and their bodies found dead lying in a flower garden in Wankoko Zone, Nakawa Division. It is alleged that the cause of the shooting is land KCCA contests, and this land is believed to be owned by 2 city tycoons who are ensuring one takes over the place. According to workers in the garden, it is alleged that the land onto which this flower garden is seated is contested by 2 tycoons. Milka Adna, a sister to Adama, says she last saw her brother last evening when he was leaving home for the night shift. Police and criminal investigation team visited the scene of crime to ascertain the cause of the shooting. Among the items found on the scene were bullet shells. Nakawa East Member of Parliament Ronald Balimwezo condemned the act and urged KCCA Land Board to disclose the legal owner of the property. Away from that incident, we now head to the general who survived assassination, General Edward Katumba Wamala, where the outgoing Prime Minister Dr. Hakana Rugunda has urged the public to be vigilant and cooperate with security in order to curb criminal elements in society. He made the comments following the attempted assassination on the life of General Katumba Wamala along Kisota Kulambiro Road in Kampala. The Prime Minister made the remarks as he visited General Katumba Wamala shortly before he was discharged from Medipol Hospital yesterday afternoon. Former Works Minister General Katumba Wamala was discharged from Medipol Hospital where he was receiving treatment. He condemned all those that participated in this act and said they'll be arrested with time. General Katumba also commended all those that supported him during this trying moment. Early in the day, Prime Minister Dr. Hakana Rugunda visited General Katumba at the hospital and said the government is determined to find those that committed the offense. Also, the Chief of Defense Forces also paid a visit among other dignitaries. The Prime Minister of Buganda Kingdom, Charles Peter Mayiga, also paid a visit to the hospital and sympathized with the general. Well, one of the ways of ensuring you survive severe illness and death is getting a COVID-19 jab. And at Kolo Independence Ceremonial Grounds, it was a beehive of activity as people turned up in large numbers to get vaccinated against COVID-19. The principal epidemiologist at the Ministry of Health, Dr. Daniel Chabayinze, confirmed that they handle between 4,000 to 6,000 people per day. In March this year, when government started vaccination against COVID-19, with priority groups being those considered to be at high risk of contracting the virus, there was so many laxity among the population. It has taken the Ministry of Health a lot of effort to educate the public about the benefits of taking COVID-19 vaccine. Now the outbreak of the second wave of COVID-19 that has seen the rise in new infections and death and opened people's minds, and many are embracing vaccination. The Ministry of Health shifted the COVID-19 vaccination center to Kolo ceremonial grounds due to overwhelming numbers, and here people are increasing day by day. The principal epidemiologist at the Ministry of Health, Dr. Daniel Chabazinge, confirms that many have turned up, and they also have capacity to handle 20,000 people per day. However, he said the public should not be conned or fleeced of their money by people who are taking opportunity of this to extort money from them seeking vaccination. Now we head to Namugongo, where only 200 people will be allowed to physically go for this year's Martyrs Pilgrim at Namugongo Shrine due today. The promoter of devotion at Namugongo Martyrs Shrine, Reverend Father Joseph Mukasa Muwonge, said the rest of the population will follow the events on television and radio, among other media platforms. Pilgrims flock Namugongo Martyrs Shrine every 3rd of June for the Martyrs Day celebrations, but due to COVID-19, the celebrations are this year to be held strictly observing the health guidelines. Only 200 invited pilgrims are expected to attend this year's celebrations. In an impromptu visit to the shrines, only members of the choir were seen preparing for Martyrs Day, slated for today. The promoter of devotion at Uganda Martyrs Shrine, Reverend Father Joseph Mukasa Muwonge, said the decision was made to stop the spread of COVID-19, and only 200 people are enough, and all the guidelines will be followed, saying many will follow on TV. Meanwhile, vendors around Namugongo Shrine say that their expectations for making money, like before, have now evaporated following adjustment in the numbers due to COVID-19. On 3rd June 1886, 32 young men pegs to the court of King Mwanga of Uganda were burned to death at Namugongo for their refusal to renounce Christianity, as they had converted to Anglican and the Catholic faith. Well, they held on what they believed, even when it meant sacrificing themselves for the love of Jesus Christ and what they believed in. Still, they did not chicken out. Years after, we celebrate them. Felix Nkunda, what is that you would say, no matter what happens, I'm ready to die for?
It's not there.
Sure?
Yes, I'm sure. I mean, what, honestly, why would I die for someone's sake? Let's be serious.
Christ did that 1,000 years back.
That was Christ. I'm not Christ. Honestly, he had a mission. That was part of his ministry. It was written out. It was meant to happen for him. That is not cut out for me. I am meant to live my life, complete it, and fulfill the things that I desire. Simply that. You know, my child has his journey. My mother, my father. In Uganda, they will say, "You know, mutango gwangi." It's as simple as that.
Okay, let's go to the national stories.
Now, international stories. List I'll be looking at. FBI says now Russian-linked group hacked the meat supply there. Now, the Russian cyber criminal group was behind the ransomware attack of the largest world's meat producing company. The FBI has come out to make mention that it was working to bring the Reveal group to justice for the hack on JBS. And the cyber breach was over the weekend, which shut down at least JBS operations in the US, Canada, and Australia, while we did see also the Sodonobi in one of the most profitable cyber criminal cartels there in the world. Now we have attributed that JBS attack to Reveal was at least linked to this particular group, while we did see also FBI coming out to give mention. However, we continue to focus our efforts on imposing risk and consequences on holding the responsible parties, at least bring them to book and also to make sure that this will not happen again. Also in the same realm, the White House came out to say, at least Joe Biden came out to make mention that he would bring up the issue of cyber attack when they meet Russian President, that is Vladimir Putin, in about 2 weeks. Now, crossing over to Israel, we do see Israeli opposition parties have reached an agreement to form a new government that would end Benjamin Netanyahu's 12-year tenure as prime minister. Now, Yair Lapid, leader of the centralist Yesh Atid party, announced the 8 factions coalition had been formed, and of course under the rotation agreement that the head of the right-wing Yamina party, and that is Naftali Bennett, would serve as prime minister first before handing over to Mr. Lapid. There still needs to be a preliminary vote before the government is sworn in. However, in a statement, Lapid said he had informed President Reuven Rivlin of the agreement, adding, "I pledge that this government will work in the service of all Israeli citizens, those who voted for it and those who did not." Now, still looking at international news there, we do cross over to Africa, in particular Nigeria, where we look at Twitter removes Nigerian president's abusive civil war post. The Twitter has removed the post by Nigerian president, that is Muhammadu Buhari, threatening punishment for regional secessionists and blamed for attacks on government buildings. Now, the move on Wednesday came after Buhari's tweet referring to a civil war in the southeastern, that is a Biafra region, violating the social media company's abusive behavior policy, leading to at least 12 hours suspension of his account. Now, the 2.5-hour conflict started, at least in this 2.5-year conflict started in 1967, where we did see more than 1 million people died from fighting disease and starvation. Now, Buhari, who served in the army against the secessionists and was Nigeria's military ruler in 1980s, tweeted on Tuesday that many people misbehaving today were too young to remember the death and the destructions of this same civil war. Well, basically that's what is happening on the international scene, but we do not tire to remind you, all our viewers, that on days like this where nations come together to celebrate, let's always seek for peace. Let us also cause remembrance into why countries like this choose to celebrate days like this. There's so much we can get out of working together. This is one of the messages that was given at the beatification of now the saints, that is the Uganda martyrs, that there's so much we can achieve together. I remember, if you listen to the story of Kizito Muto, Saint Kizito Muto now, who's also been made the patron saint for swimmers and the young kids, that when he was persecuted, all his village decided to be baptized. That is the power of martyrdom. As Robert asked me earlier, what would you die for? That is something you want to think about, depending on where you stand in life. But nevertheless, let us stand for peace, let us stand for togetherness as we celebrate such days in the domain of the Pearl of Africa. We will have our song for the day. We will take a break. When we come back, we will be discussing another matter of national importance, as Robert always normally says, that will also touch the activities of today, but also the most surging of the same. Let us take a break. When we come back, we will be taking you through our newsreel. Good morning.
clearly, among the public holidays is 3rd June, which is Martyrs' Day celebrations, and today is 3rd June, and we're celebrating the martyrs that died for their faith. But how did this all start? It all started when a British explorer and a journalist visited Uganda, and that is Henry Stanley, and in 1875 he met the Kabaka of Buganda, Mutesa, and when he met him, he told him about the goodness of Christianity, how it was one of the avenues through which civilization, proper health was a channel that they should achieve. So Mutesa, yes, was convinced and decided through Stanley to ensure that he pens down a letter to Queen Victoria of England, urging her, appealing to her to send missionaries in Uganda. This letter was actually published in the Daily Telegram, a newspaper in England, on the 15th, that is of November, the year 1875. 2 years later, we see missionaries arrive in Uganda, begin the gospel, and later those that were converted said, no, we have to denounce what we've been believing in and practice a new faith. Here, Kabaka Mwanga, after he had taken over Mutesa, did not understand these people. He was wondering, were these rebels in my kingdom? Why were they rebelling against what he had practiced for a long time? Therefore, Mukajanga was ready to ensure that he does the execution and the martyrdom of these young, lively men. With Felix, we are going to be looking at actually the impact and the relevancy of these matters in modern day times. Many will look at this as history, but we want to bring it closer. What is the relevancy of these matters even as we celebrate them today?
Well, of course, when you talk about martyrdom, it isn't just about the sense that is hidden in the name as martyr, but the word martyr is, as we said yesterday, is someone who takes out them own selves for something they actually believe in. Not for someone, but for something they believe in. Martyrdom. And if I'm not gotten wrong, as I told you, that one of the most celebrated martyrs away from the Uganda martyrs is Saint Stephen, who was also killed for his faith. At the demise of Sekabaka Mutesa, the throne was taken over by his son, Mwanga. Mwanga, if you read most about him, you realize that he was more notorious. In fact, the written rhetorics define him as corrupt, as problematic. And at that time, the kingdom faced more than problems of the likes of the Karoli Dwangas. There were so many challenges. That's when you saw the kingdom having experienced a couple of challenges in terms of even polygamy, prostitution, because of his demeanor then. It is also believed that there was a growing concern of the number of Muslims in the kingdom, which had started to worry Sekabaka Mutesa. That's why he was interested in bringing in now the missionaries to counter. Because you remember that Arabs had come earlier in the kingdom, Robert. Arabs had been here much earlier. So they had converted a number of people. In fact, when you look at some of the places in Kampala, look at Chibuli, you go to places, it's a place on Bombo Road. There's a place there which is most known for Muslims. Even when you go to Natete, there's some particular places where they had anchored, and yes, Butambala. There's this place, Bombo. Bombo. This place where the Altar of Nubians is called what? Is Bombo. Yeah, Bombo. Yeah. Yes. So by nobody was Simbia Makanda, if I'm to use the local language, and they had taken center stage of the kingdom. I can tell you, and that had threatened the king. Now that's why one of the things, as we were reading earlier, that's why he actually wrote to request. When he met this gentleman, he told him, you know what, I think I have a problem. And also they used that to manipulate him and tell him, yeah, if you bring the missionaries right to the queen, He told him, you bring the guys here, guess what, they will help you to counter the Islam, the Muslim guys, they will build schools, which was true, by the way. Because you remember at the coming of the missionaries, some of the most impactful aspects they did was to put in place schools, hospitals, and teach all these things. And of course, later on, Christianity.
Convinced him of civilization.
Indeed, which was true. Which was true, by the way, from just convincing. Because you and me know the places here in Uganda which are anchored on missionary. If you are set to count schools, you may lose count. Now, that brought the establishment. These people that were killed, it is also believed that Kabaka Mwanga killed them because he did not understand his father's cause. It is only necessary that even away from the disagreement of feeling belittled or what, he did not understand the cause of the father.
It wasn't so much of a threat to the throne.
Because it wasn't him who invited. He didn't know the background, and maybe he didn't interest himself much in understanding and all this. So for him, he was impulsive when he told them do this. In fact, when you read the story of Chizito, he worked in the palace and he was killed he had worked in the palace from the age of 6. But he was killed at about 14 years, when he was 14. And then there was now Laudel and Mapera, who had also brought Catholic. They came through, I think, Chigungu, Entebbe Chigungu. And they had also done a lot of catechism, what people here call Mapera, though it is a French name called Mopé, but they call him. So they had done a lot of catechism in Buganda, and actually the Catholic faith had grown tremendously. People started to confess, and the biggest sign of confession was baptism. Now, that was the problematic aspect with the king, because if you remember, when the people whisper even were going to be persecuted, if you read from history, that Karoli Rwanga mobilized them. I think a number of them were not baptized in as much as they were doing catechism. He baptized them there. Because that alone was disturbing.
Because it was a proper sign of have converted.
Yes, because he would be good at let them die without being baptized. In fact, among those people who weren't baptized is Chizito Muto and the other people. Now, basically, that kind of wing, the conviction had caused turmoil in the kingdom, that it wasn't understood.
And also when it came in a time of condemning some of what were being normal, for example, condemning polygamy.
Yeah,
Rwanda, banning places of worship. These people would convert, and then their shrines, what we would call masabo, by then meaning places of prayer, which Kabaka Mwanga knew that these are places we go, we worship our gods, we give what we give, whatever it is. The converts were then destroying these, burning them and saying, no, these are demonic, we cannot still accept Christ and still have such. So it was a time, like Felix said, that it was really hard for Mwanga to understand what was really happening. Was he still having control as the king of Uganda at the time, or was this movement going to take over the leadership? People were being loyal to a foreign religion, according to him. Yet they had a king who dictated terms and conditions, and they were rebellious against that. So that is where his man Mukajanga, he called upon him and ensured that yes, martyrdom was the issue. However, he didn't envisage that this would then again escalate the spread of the gospel and people converting into Christianity. Now, Felix, with this background, today a Christian, a believer, how do we bring relevancy to them?
Now, modern day martyrdom is different from what we saw in 1886. We may not call on two Christians to go out there and be killed or shot or what, but martyrdom in the sense of revolution, it has evolved many a times, and this is attributed to how people subscribe to their religions or faiths, if I may call them most recent. For example, as we celebrate 3rd June today, what is the expectation of every Christian out there? What is the expectation? And this takes a tripartite approach. You would look at it in terms of political matters, you look at them in terms of culture, you look at them in terms of economics, just to mention but a few. Now, everyone and where they are, and as we celebrate these days, we have continuously said that it's not just a matter of celebrating days, taking a holiday, sitting home and doing all these things. But if we ever take chance, for the people who should be moving to Namugongo today, what is there for you in terms of modern day martyrdom? You see, people died for what they believed in. You may not have to die to put life. It's not a necessity. But how do you carry on the matters of faith? If you want to go biblical, the requirements are written. The requirements are written. For example, one of the greatest of the same in the Bible, or the words of God, is about brethren. There's an aspect of hope, faith, and love, but above all, love. If you've read the Bible, you do notice that the Bible gives us indications of how we can live modern day martyrdom. How do we lose ourselves for the things we believe in? Today, if you will believe with me that the world has been so ravaged, whereby you see almost in every country there's a bit of war, there are deaths, there are all these things. And, you know, when do we lose ourselves? It's not enough for us to celebrate Uganda matters. It's not enough. To sing songs of praises, to what, and all these things, it's not enough. And when I talk about songs, I just remembered, you see, there are so many beautiful songs that have been made out of the matters. I don't know if you've learnt any, Robert.
Not really. There's one I grew up hearing, the Mapera issue.
It's not a matter.
Then they continue, they bring in the matters element.
But that is from Mapera. But there's another song that they made out of Chizito Moto, which is so good. Chizito Moto.
But Felix, you're not singing. I can't even hear that.
Because this is not time for singing anyway.
Okay.
But back to the point, Robert, that modern day people shouldn't just celebrate days like this for the sake of identifying, because they are calendar days. But how about, and society needs to re-echo, and this has been the message. If you do read into the message of 2018, when we had the Pope, if I'm not mistaken, around this year, part of the celebrations, it was meant that let us refine ourselves as modern day matters in the things we do. I can give you examples, and that's why I told you, on all trajectories, look in terms of politics. Are you contented with how the politics of the world is being run? Does that depict the things you celebrate? You see, it is one thing for you to celebrate the birth of Jesus, as in Christmas, but how about you? Celebrations are totally meaningless if they do not cause change. The 3rd June is so useless if people who celebrate it cannot pick something out of the life of the people they are celebrating. It is not enough for us to always have it as a public holiday, walk there, pilgrims and what, if we do not, and the church does not assist its followers to cause change because of this that they actually celebrate.
Unfortunately, Felix, of late we've seen that celebrations, some have become more of something people participate because it is stylish, but looking at the gist or reflecting on such events, the particular reasons, it's something we are running away from. I remember before COVID-19, many would go to Namugongo for various reasons. There are those that would go to pray, to celebrate the lives of martyrs. There are those that would go because it had become stylish. Wagenze Namugongo. There are those. So for many reasons. But actually, when you talk about one greatest commandment is love. And the Bible says, if you cannot love your neighbor, then how can you love God you've never seen? It is a call that many of the times we must understand. It is Martyrs' Day. Do we see giving up self for the other in ensuring that we share the love of God? Because this is what martyrs died for. It was all about preaching the gospel, preaching people to change from what was evil by then and take on a new life. That is why Felix said the baptism, there is power in the element of being baptized, that the old you is gone and then a new you comes up, a new you that is going to ensure that you promote peace, a new you that is going to ensure you promote brother in love, a new you that is going to ensure as we battle against corruption. These are some of the things that sometimes comes to my mind. Our motto, everything, Uganda is a country where it is in the hands of God, right from our national anthem, all the standards, when we go to a motto. But one thing that always comes in my mind, have we really had these and reflected on them and behaved in a manner that portrays that, well, there's simple things that we have as a country. Not many countries have matters to a number that we have. Not many countries, their matters were given that prominency that Uganda matters do have. But does that speak to the character of the population and many amongst us? That is a very big challenge. Felix, let's also now look at the tourism element when you talk about Uganda matters. Yes, the spiritual realm, we've talked much about it, but let's look at other opportunities that this day brings to Uganda as a country.
Well, of course, continuously, the Uganda Matters has been actually one of the most trading aspects of the Pearl of Africa in terms of tourism, as evidently that we have always gotten people from all over the world, and that's a matter of fact, by the way, in challenge. It's the only one of the only ideologies of tourism in this country that has consecrated people from all areas of the world, because everywhere where there is a Catholic faith, this is known as a matter of fact. But the biggest question, in as much as it presents opportunities, how has the custodian of tourism, as government, as the ministry, as the board, and other sister agencies, used it to the most fullest? There's something called archives. How has the government archived this great establishment? And in the tripartite attribute of the Catholic, the Protestants, and the Muslims, how? For all these years ago, not until a couple of years when we saw now the late Dr. Superior Nalwoga, who started the move of Kuyoyo to Namugongo. And I remember we contributed a couple of some things to see, and the government gave some good amount of money to help, which is appreciated. At least now you see there was a face uplift.
And also a modern museum there.
But I don't know why you insist on that, Robert, but it's not there. It's in the Protestant side where they are trying to put, and also then it's not yet done. You know, but the museum, when you talk about a modern day museum, I'm yet to see or find out, but it is not, there should be more to that.
Okay.
Now, content. How do you put this content marketable? For purposes of one, education, research, tourism, just to mention but a few. If you want to promote this product of the matters for national purposes, why isn't it one of the core studies of your curricula? When, as you go and make study about John Speak, here to have discovered what?
The source of the Nile. Ugandans were not knowing that is the source that were present by then.
How? So it's just a matter of finding place for relevance, Robert. But if you want to market it, how do you market it? I think, and I know for a fact that the institutions that are in charge of this have not done a good job. I
agree with you, Felix,
in terms of that. When you look at the sites, all these matters, about 40-something matters, 3 or 4 or 2, were murdered in different spots, except for a few. But these spots, if you reach there, you will cry.
At least Munyonyo,
when you go to Munyonyo, I think too. When you go to Andrea Kago was murdered somewhere else, you go to even Chigungu, the place
Saint Valley Kudembe market.
The Saint Valley Kudembe.
Yes.
There's I think Matia Rwanga Old Kampala, if I'm not mistaken.
That's what I've been talking about, the Anglican side.
But I'll tell you as a matter of fact that there is so much that has not been done in terms of getting the best out of it. First and foremost, it should be a first aspect. Do you know how many times you study about sources of the Nile and what? For example, even the syllabus doesn't study about the species of animals the country has. Now, how will people talk about them to interest others? You're talking about Uganda Matters. If you're not a Catholic or a Protestant, who knows about Uganda Matters? The only people they think they know is 3rd June people go to Namugongo. That's it. But if you want to ask me about rainlands, here, where? You ask me unnecessary things, all these things. You teach.
Because they're part of the syllabus.
You teach people about long distance trade. The Arabs came, then they were somewhere, they built flat houses, flattened roof houses, all these things. That's where we miss it. that the tourism institutions here, for example, you see them struggling with marketing things that are formed. Miss Kavi. Now, you're struggling to market Miss Kavi when you have Uganda Matters that you don't need to struggle.
That is something known
it
even
is
to
there.
the world.
You're just picking up. For example, how about you conceptualize, you know, you conceptualize the Uganda Matters and make the best out of it. So we're still lacking in terms of tourism. We've been most privileged, however unfortunate, most recently because of COVID, that now we have a national airline. This was the best time this national airline was going to maximize work. This was the best time. And these are what we call calendar events that should be most marketed for international purposes. Because the whole month can be taken off to celebrate. And even maybe we can challenge the church. If they can come together and give it a whole month where they can choose days to teach about different matters and make them matters of international concern. The church has tried. I know for a fact that the archives in Rubaga has tried to keep some of this information. It's there if you want to get it. You know for a fact that also the Protestants, the Anglicans, if I may call them, they have tried. They are putting up a state-of-the-art museum on their side. They are trying to work around it. I think before the late former Archbishop who was in charge of it and putting it all together. They're trying, but also issues of finances. They're struggling. Putting up something good is not something that you want to, you think it's just an overnight aspect. But I think government should interest itself because, you know, tourism there's what you call religious tourism, there's cultural, there's research, there's educative and all these things. It falls, and in the conviction of religious, it is much easier because people are already convinced. You don't have to advertise. For example, imagine you can't advertise Matters Day. You don't have to advertise. But you know the strength you go through to advertise for to convince them that Miss Kavi, oh, this one.
Well, Felix, when we talk about matters, something very important to note is that, yes, they died because of what they believed in, and let's emulate their lives. How do you live a matter-like life? How do you ensure you spread the love of God? How do you turn away from all the evils that these matters agreed and said this is the right path? But also, how do we tap into the number of opportunities that come along with Uganda having these young sons that denounced what they were believing in and took on Christianity? Felix has talked about tapping into the tourism sector. There's so much that we feel can still benefit the country economically, socially, and also actually will transform their lives. Moral decadence is rampant. People are shooting others, killing, immorality, all this. If we go back and just think of this day and reflect on how these people gave up their lives, then we believe we'll benefit in all aspects of life. When we return, we'll be looking at what is trending in the print media, but also look at the traffic updates, and Maureen Kanyana will be here to take you through the weather. Good morning, and please keep it with us on UBC TV.
Live from Now Avenue in UBC Studios. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Therefore, understanding this model. Hey, excuse me, lady. Who do you think you are? A queen?
Hey, haven't you heard? Get Airtel Chillax bundles and browse like a queen.
Get Airtel Chillax bundles that do not expire and browse like a queen or king. Dial *175# or use My Airtel app. Airtel, the smartphone network.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
What does it mean to be closer together? It's taking the last bus home for a surprise visit. Closer together is strangers finding a connection. It's bringing home something much more than a box. It's the warmth of home, or the beginning of something new. There's magic in sharing the things that we love, because it's those things that bring us close together.
Echa COVID-19 chijja kugwa. If we get vaccinated now, observe social distancing, wear masks properly, sanitize or wash our hands with soap and water regularly. Together we can defeat this enemy.
The Teacher Management Information System, TMIS, is one of the innovations the Ministry of Education and Sports has rolled out to have all teachers register online. This is in line with the spirit of the National Teacher Policy to professionalize the teaching profession and the Ministry's effort to collate teacher data in a single database for better teacher management. Join us as we host officials of the Ministry of Education and Sports to discuss the Teacher Management Information System. The show is sponsored by the United Nations Education, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, under the Norwegian Teacher Initiative in collaboration with the Ministry of Education and Sports.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field could not be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite show.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development, and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Every morning people wake up and one of the things is you wonder what the day has. But all we tell you is a positive mindset, hard work will see you through, and of course with prayer. Don't forget every day as you start your morning to say a prayer and of course put yourself in the hands of the Lord and all will go well with you. A positive mindset will greatly do you good. We are looking at some of the stories in the dailies. We have the Daily Monitor and inside is the hunt for the assassins. Yes, the Daily Monitor brings you that the hunt is on, and we're convinced that by God's grace we'll have them netted Then still they give you 5. Here we see 14 named on Joint Operation Committee. They also, we look at also General Katumba narrates ordeal. Then Brenda, that is the daughter, to be buried in a wedding gown.
Now, well, of course, still in papers, we'll be looking at His Excellency the President comes out to say that doctors will be getting at least shillings 5 million as starting pay. Now, in other stories, we'll be looking at flu cough outbreak hit children and hardest there, and gunmen killed 2 security guards. But of course, the lizard also comes out to say even their commanders have ever condemned. Now, Ofono condemns battering of journalists. That is quite interesting. But we're looking at also COVID-19. Government left with only 200,000 COVID vaccines.
So that means people should really up the game to get COVID-19 jabs. Otherwise, make sure you're among those that will receive the remaining. And in case you got the first jab, it is very advisable, please go and get the second jab. If a period of 12 weeks has passed, around 3 months there, please ensure you get yourself the second jab, because it will greatly improve your ability, the body's ability to fight the vaccine. Still looking at today, we look at that is relationships, navigating romance at workplace. Okay, that is something that they're bringing you. Then also updates regarding COVID-19.
Now, of course, there are other stories inside the papers where we'll be looking at analysis into identity facial leaks, and also Bamba asks government to fulfill promises, and hotel tour operators struggle to stay afloat, and also use flexibilities to improve access to COVID-19 jabs. Now again, shilling posts highest appreciation in the year. That and more is what you'll be getting when you get yourself a copy of the papers. But of course, in the same realm, we'll give you a couple of hints on your traffic and how you'll get into the city, routes not to use, routes to use as well, and of course much of that and the weather forecast as our usual drill. For some of you who are getting into town, endeavor to do the couple of things that are most important for some of you who are drivers. Like, for example, avoid getting what they call, I don't know if it's called a tank hiccup. For example, I've seen a couple of people run with jerry cans on the road. These are some of the things that are avoidable. And just a tip, when you're leaving home, how about you sure that you refill at the most next petrol station, depending on the type of car that you drive. It's more embarrassing for you to stop. Actually, if you're running to save time, you may end up spending more time trying to fix the situation. Again, it's more expensive. You have to get a border person, probably for another 5,000, which would have added maybe on your 20,000 to buy fuel. So today morning, we give you a traffic tip. As you leave home, make sure that your fuel gauge is in its best position. And you will make sure, at least make sure you have enough fuel to take you where you're going. The others you'll deal with when you're leaving that place. Now, Mole will be coming in to give us the weather forecast, telling us on how the weather looks like and how it will look like for the rest of the day. Let us have a break. Mole will be coming back with weather updates. Good morning.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala.
Haven't you heard? Get Airtel Chillax bundles and browse like a queen.
Get Airtel Chillax bundles that do not expire and browse like a queen or king. Dial *175# or use My Airtel app.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way, because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Ginger Tea drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
What does it mean to be closer together? It's taking the last bus home for a surprise visit. Closer together is strangers finding a connection. It's bringing home something much more than a box. It's the warmth of home, or the beginning of something new. There's magic in sharing the things that we love, because it's those things that bring us close together.
Echa COVID-19 chijja kugwa. If we get vaccinated now, observe social distancing, wear masks properly, sanitize or wash our hands with soap and water regularly. Together we can defeat this enemy.
The Teacher Management Information System, TMIS, is one of the innovations the Ministry of Education and Sports has rolled out to have all teachers register online. This is in line with the spirit of the National Teacher Policy to professionalize the teaching profession and the Ministry's effort to collate teacher data in a single database for better teacher management. Join us as we host officials of the Ministry of Education and Sports to discuss the Teacher Management Information System. The show is sponsored by the United Nations Education, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, under the Norwegian Teacher Initiative in collaboration with the Ministry of Education and Sports.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field could not be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite show.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development, and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
Live from Now Avenue in UBC Studios. This is Good Morning Uganda.
A very good morning to you. My name is Molen Kenyana, bringing you our weather updates this morning. We want to look at what's going on around the country. Now, we also have our seasonal forecast, that is for June up to September, and we have been looking at most of the areas that are likely to have mostly rainy conditions throughout the season, as well as the dry conditions that are expected across most areas. Now, as we headed for the Mother's Day celebration in Namugongo, we'll be getting you that satellite coverage over the area and also for Kampala as well. Now, we are looking at most areas within Kampala and also the Lake Victoria Basin. We're talking about the eastern side of Lake Victoria and also western side that takes in Masaka. Likely to have mostly rainy conditions for this season, but there is a reduction as it is mostly a dry season starting June up to September. But we also want to look at the western part of the country. Now, that when you look at the western sector, that takes in parts of also northwestern Uganda, but this is where we expect more rains to actually come in as we head towards this season. But we do have most areas expected to be dealing with dry conditions, and we'll have some advisories for those areas. Now, these are what you can do as we prepare for the upcoming rainy season that will be close to September up to November. That's our second major rainy season across Uganda. But for now, what are the do's for this season as we prepare for the upcoming rainy season? Now, first, we do have proper harvesting practices of water resources. Now, you find that most areas will be associated with those dry spells, and what you can do is make sure you have a way to harvest the water and also have it for especially short growing crops. We look at most especially vegetables, because even when we have this dry season, you can still plant those short growing crops. And looking at probably even beans and vegetables, those you can use irrigation as a practice to also make sure you have your plants. Now, we also want to talk about social events. When we are advising people, if you see that this season is actually a dry season, this is when you start planning weddings, the traditional ceremonies, introduction. This is a good time of the year to actually do that. I know there are a lot of guys that give an excuse of, you know what, we can't have a wedding because you see there is a rainy season, it's raining everywhere, it will rain on our wedding day. But yes, the dry season is here, so this is a very perfect time to have that wedding planning already, and also for most of the social events actually. Even for conferences, people are planning to have workshops, and looking at a perfect time of the year where you can do this, when you can do this. This is a perfect time as we head for mostly dry weather conditions across most especially the southern sector of the country, parts of central, eastern Uganda. But we still have more rains that are forecast across Karamoja region and northern Uganda that we have been seeing throughout this week. Now, let's come back and take a look at what we have across the country today. We do have mostly sunny conditions that are coming in this morning, but much of the country has been dealing with those cloudy conditions. We did have a rainy system that started early this morning that was extending from parts of northwestern Uganda, that is Arua. We have Nebi as well. This is where we had rains this morning. We also had parts of Gulu as well, having some of those rains come through, and much of the country was having that cloudy condition. But look at that Choga region over there. We did have rains that were coming in earlier this morning, but the cloudy condition is still over the place, and that will be bringing us more rains this morning. Now, look at western Uganda. We did have rains across midwestern, that is Fort Portal and Toroko as well. That system was extending all the way up to Mbarara, still developing rains over there, and we're having those rainy conditions across that area. And that will be propagating westwards, so do expect rains. That is areas of southwestern Uganda, Kabale, Kisoro. Do expect rains coming your way early this morning. We also have that system that will be extending across the central parts of northern Uganda that takes in Gulu, Lira. Do expect those rains to come your way as well. and we have that system over Choga, but that is starting to fade away, and we could look at a clearing trend as we head towards the afternoon. Now, with the Lake Victoria Basin, we did have those rains across the islands of Lake Victoria, mostly to Chotela side and southwestern part of Lake Victoria, but that is also starting to develop more and extending this to the western side of Lake Victoria Basin. That will be bringing us rains mostly across southwestern and also for the western part of Lake Victoria, areas of Masaka, Rakai. You can expect those rains to come your way early this morning. Now, there was a system that's starting to develop across the central part of Lake Victoria, which takes in Kampala, Wakiso, and Entebbe as well, but that is only bringing us clouds for now. We do have mostly cloudy weather even for now, but we will see that system also developing, and it will be bringing us rains across some areas within the central part of Lake Victoria Basin. Now we'll go ahead and take a look at what we are expecting today morning according to our forecast as we take a look at much of what is coming in through from our satellite. Now this morning we do have a forecast for sunny intervals. That is for Mount Elgon Highlands, Mbale, Bududa. We'll have mostly a sunny morning, but that cloud will also be coming through and temperatures will be going up to 26 degrees. Quite a pleasant morning over there. We do have the western part of Lake Victoria where we have Masaka, Rakai, Kalisizo. We have temperatures going up to 25. Quite a chilly morning over there, but we will have that rain also coming through as the cloudy system starts to develop over there. Now looking at what we have across the central, that is eastern part of central Lake Victoria Basin, we have Kampala, Entebbe, Wakiso and Mukono, where we are forecasting mostly intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions. We have that rain system that is also expected this morning, and temperatures will be going up to 25 degrees centigrade. Now southwestern Uganda, where we have Mbarara, Bushenyi, Rubirizi, we have a forecast for intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions at 26, a pleasant mix of clouds and sunshine. We take a look at what we're forecasting across central, Luwero, Woblenzi, Nakaseke, Nakasongola as well. We are forecasting mostly intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions, but with isolated showers expected over the area, and that will be expected later as the morning goes on. Temperatures will be at 26. Now looking at what we have across the eastern part of the country, Soroti, Katakwi, Amori and Kumi, we are expecting mostly intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions, also a beautiful mix of clouds and sunshine, but a very warm morning. Take a look at that, 28 over there. That will be shooting up to 30 by afternoon. Now as we head towards our celebration, I can tell you it's a chilly morning, quite cloudy over there, especially for Namugongo right now, but we are expecting it to be pleasant. Those rains won't be coming in anytime soon, but we do have a forecast for showers that will be coming in later across Kampala. So I can only expect it to be a pleasant day really. So have nice celebrations, go enjoy and celebrate. On behalf of many Ugandans who won't be making it to the venue, but we know it is time and we're trying to observe COVID-19 SOPs. So it's perfect that we also go in on our screens. And as UBC, we'll be bringing you live events as the event unfolds, and you will be getting that connection towards Namugongo live on your screen. Well, from me, my name is Mwalimu Kenyana, wishing you a good morning.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field couldn't be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite show.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development, and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
Ekya COVID-19 kijja kugwa. If we get vaccinated now, observe social distancing, wear masks properly, sanitize or wash our hands with soap and water regularly. Together we can defeat this enemy.
In chess, the small one can become the big one. It's the same here. And here too. Watch every move. Record every number so you can plan better. No matter the size of your dream, tomorrow's success belongs to those who keep today's records clean. File your returns today.
Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together.
What does it mean to be closer together? It's taking the last bus home for a surprise visit. Closer together is strangers finding a connection. It's bringing home something much more than a box. It's the warmth of home, or the beginning of something new. There's magic in sharing the things that we learn, because it's those things that bring us close together.
You can trust the origin and authenticity of a product using a digital tax stamp.
Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together. Pick of the day on UBC, brought to you by was brought to you by.
We've cut and reduced our MTN Momo withdrawal rates. Now you can withdraw mobile money at the lowest rates. You also get MTN Central Points when you deposit, send and withdraw MTN mobile money. Visit our Momo agents countrywide and withdraw mobile money at our reduced rates from 1st May 2021. Everywhere you go, MTN.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
It's a public holiday today, and in case you're wondering why am I not going to work today, or why our offices closed, in case you are an early bird and you went into an office and partying, well, it's a public holiday. It is the 3rd of June and it is Matters Day. This is what we're going to be discussing in our GMU agenda, I and my colleague Felix Nkunda. So much happens on this day, but due to COVID-19, activities are going to be restricted. We won't have so much of activity in these venues, the Uganda Matters Shrines in Namugongo, because numbers are going to be limited. Some activities that were known business around may not happen this time around. The second wave is with us, and whatever we do, we must have in mind that we should not spread the COVID-19. Felix, Matters Shrine, briefly, when you talk about this day, I want to get your memories, childhood memories, in a minute before we move to something else.
Well, quite a lot. I almost, in my early childhood, I don't think I've ever missed, from the time I think I was about 4 to about 15, I didn't think I missed any Matters Day celebration. Even probably about 15, 16. I used to make pilgrim every year, from the time, at least from the time I remember, every year. And I had an attachment. I've been in that, so I've been going there almost since my childhood, except for the most recent. I started growing up, is I had to choose when and where. Yeah, but I know for a fact that everything I went there and prayed for happened. I know for a fact. So as I told you also, that making a pilgrim is not just about visiting the scene. It has a process, it's a routine, it's a couple of activities that work one to the other for you to benefit out of it. And I also employ our spiritual leaders in the Catholic faith and the Anglican faith to take time and teach people. People normally miss it. People actually don't know these things, that as they make these pilgrimages, pilgrims, they should be able to benefit by performing those particular drills. Major memories is the numbers. There's a time I would not walk, like you would simply be moved by the forces of people behind you, in front of you, beside you. You find yourself in another spot, not because that's where you're going, but because of there was so, and the most annoying was when you had these so-called dignitaries, I don't know, dignitaries of who would be coming, then they have to push you aside. Their cars would come in, yet yours would be stopping. It was something that was not really it would just annoy me. But what we would do when you see, and I remember majorly it was the cars of the vice president would come, and you would be waiting for it. When it's going, you have to follow it, because that's the only way you would get clear passage up to around Chaliwajala, because from this ends of Janda, Sonde, Janda, then mid there Namugongo, where they sent Chizito, the school where the Zia Angelina Hospital, then the shrine, all that place would be so packed to capacity. The only time you find a breather when you start approaching area, Chaliwajala and areas, you go to Chira and Chireka, that is where, because cars would stop there.
And you used to have a lot of traffic diversions there as well. I want to talk about, for me, I don't have so much of child memories. Actually, the first time I went to the shrines was when you had gone for a trip. You remember those school trips? It was one of the places we had to visit. Second, yes, I went with my late uncle, Reverend Canon David Sentongo, because I was at his home, and for them, it was a must. You had to go to Namugongo. But after I came into journalism, yes, 3rd June, I used to be there covering, and it was a must, so I knew I would get into this, get those speeches and all that. But one interesting thing away from the numbers for me was the beehive of activity, away from the where people, you would see these selling things that are not connected anywhere to worship. Leave alone a person selling rosaries, where people would bring clothes, people would bring radio sets outside, people would bring mobile phones. I was wondering, okay, this was the opportunity for people to earn big from a day's event. Actually, not even a day's event, because before COVID, I think it would take about 3 days. Different pilgrims arriving, then so much.
The cathedral for the Catholics, there will be mass at least from fast. There will be masses celebrated by different, both in the church, the basilica, and also the other
So the economic element is really something that, for me, I recall so much when we talk about 3rd June. But just throw more light on this, Uganda Tourism Board and the Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities put together a piece regarding the matters. Let's first take a look at this.
The Ugandan Martyrs are a group of 23 Anglican and 22 Catholic converts to Christianity in the historical kingdom of Buganda, now part of Uganda, who were executed between November 1885 and January 1887 for their refusal to denounce their faith. Historical experts also indicate that among the executed were Muslims. Their deaths took place at a time when there was a three-way religious struggle for political influence at the Buganda Royal Court. The Catholic Church beatified the martyrs of its faith in 1920 and canonized them as saints in 1964. In a bid to promote religious pilgrimage and tourism, Uganda Tourism Board developed the Uganda Martyrs Trail. This is a journey that traces the path to martyrdom of the Uganda martyrs.
We are making Uganda Martyrs a significant product. We have over 25 sites, and we are suggesting that for you to have a complete pilgrimage, you must walk and visit all the sites that were where the martyrs took place. The second most interesting thing about this is that all three major religions were part of this martyrdom.
This journey starts from Chigungu in Entebbe, where the first Catholic missionaries, Father Laudel and Brother Ammons, first landed. The arrival of the missionaries had started in 1875, when Kabaka Mutesa I, under imminent threat from an Arab invasion from the north, invited the Europeans to come and protect him. In Munyonyo, this is the site of the palace of Kabaka Mwanga, where he passed the death sentence to the converts. It was this decision that heralded the harrowing and deeply inspiring narrative of the Ugandan martyrs. It was there that the first blood of this savage and prolonged purge of Christ's faithful. It is also here that St. Andrew Kagwa was killed on the 26th of May, 1886. Also, St. Denis Sebugwawo was killed here on the 25th of May, 1886. Posiano Ngondwe also died near Munyonyo while being taken to Namugongo with fellow prisoners on the 26th of May, 1886. These are the monuments of Musa Andrew Kagwa and Denis Sebugwawo.
When time came for them to be brought to Namugongo to be martyred, to be burnt alive to death, it's reported that Kristo waved to Mapera, who was outside and by whom they passed. Kristo waved at him saying, "Bye bye, Mapera. We are going to heaven. I am going to heaven."
St. Matthias Mulumba died here at Old Kampala in the most brutal way between 17th and 30th of May 1886. A monument and church was constructed here in his memory. The first Christian convert to be killed was St. Mukasabali Kudembe on 15th of November 1885 in Nashivubo, Kampala. St. Gonzaga Gonza failed to make it to Namugongo. He died here at Kamuli on the 27th of May 1886, and a monument was built in his memory. John Mary Muzei was killed here in Chisenyi in Kampala on the 21st of January 1887 near the site where St. Bali Kudembe and Athanansis Bazeketa were killed on the 15th of November 1885 and the 27th of May 1886 respectively. The first Protestant martyrs, Mark Kakumba, Yusuf Lugalama, and Noah Serwaji, found their death here at Pusega on the 31st of January 1885.
When Mackay came and was trying to spread the gospel, was trying to spread Christianity, he requested for escorts. And the king had opted to give him specific escorts, but he, Mackay, preferred to move with just these little boys. So this angered the king because it was kind of like rebellious, because when Mackay requested to go with these boys, they did not refuse. They simply preferred to move, to go with the option of Mackay other than that of the king. So it seemed like it was rebellious. So they were followed up, and on reaching this spot, Mpima Erebera, they were actually killed by dismembering, and later their body parts burnt to ashes.
Muslims also had their own executed. But this was during the reign of Kabaka Mutesa, during the 1880s and 1890s. At Natete, this is the mosque where 85 Muslims were executed.
Some chiefs went through circumcision, but they were supposed to get permission from who? Mutesa I. This one annoyed him because he knew that after going through circumcision, and they healed very well without any problem, because others thought that when you circumcise, you would die. So those few chiefs, when they circumcised and they got healed very well, of course, this would influence so many others to do what? So the first 27 of them, Mutesa ordered for their death.
This is a man-made lake built under the instruction of Kabaka Mwanga. It was also here that Senkole, the assistant executioner, singled out Chizito and Ranga and handed them to Namugongo for execution. At Nalukolongo, this is where the White Fathers settled on their return from exile on the 12th of July 1885. It was also here that the martyrs used to come for instructions from Munyonyo every day. Alexander Mackay of the Anglican faith used this cave as a place where he educated the Baganda chiefs and preached from here the word of God. This is the very place where Mackay translated the book of Matthew in Uganda. Father Simeon Laudel died on the 12th of May 1890 and was buried here at Kasubi Navlagala, where the first Catholic church was built in Uganda. It is here where the first 5 White Fathers were buried. Kasubi Tombs is an important site in this trail, for here lies the first 4 kings of Buganda, including Mwanga, who ordered the death of the martyrs. Namugongo is where the rest of the martyrs were burnt to death on the 3rd of June 1886. Adolf Ludogo Mukasa from Bunyoro also died here. The story of the Ugandan martyrs does not end in Buganda. There are martyrs that held elsewhere in Uganda. Daudi Okello and Gildo Ira were 2 young catechists from northern Uganda. They belonged to the Choli tribe, a subdivision of the large Luo group. The duo lived and were martyred a few years after the foundation of the mission of Kitugum by the Komboni missionaries in 1915. The trail also extended to the site where Bishop Hannington of the Anglican Church was murdered on the orders of King Mutesa I as he was coming to Buganda from Busoga, which Mutesa called his back door. The death of these young Christians did not go in vain. Today their names are adored by Christians across the world. The pinnacle of the celebrations is usually the 3rd of June every year when the Ugandan martyrs are celebrated. Millions of people gather at Namugongo Shrine to pray and commemorate the courageous actions of the martyrs.
Information regarding the Uganda matters, and for you to complete this journey, at least you must have visited all these execution centers where a number of them lost their lives. But Felix, as I was watching this video, one thing that came to my mind is how deeply are we rooted in our faith? Christianity has been around for so long in Uganda now. If I'm to remember, maybe one would say right from 1875, following the invitation of the missionaries to Uganda. But when you look at our country, we have so many Christians, we have so many Catholics. Basically, we're not a country that is not a religious country or a God-fearing country. When you look at some of the happenings as we celebrate this day, it comes to my mind, how rooted are we in our faith? These young boys, I saw 16, 17, 18, little did they know, I believe, as we know today regarding faith.
Well, you see, matters of faith are entirely individual, as a matter of fact. However, for them it was much more of a colleague encouragement. If you read more into the Uganda matters, and if you've bothered to also understand, like Matia Mulumba and Kaloli Rwanga, they used to, the Luganda would say, Okuma the others, they would to encourage them, don't give up, don't give up. That's why if you look at the trail, some of them did not make it to where they were supposed to be executed from. But imagine that they had to move how many kilometers? But they were singing and praising, singing and praising, singing. So faith today is again, it's individual. I wouldn't judge anyone. I wouldn't want to judge the people on how they, but sometimes you can easily tell mannerism of faith in the acts. What you see in the world would tell how people's faith is clear. One of the most recent acts was actually what happened when we saw the shooting of General Katumba and now the late daughter. Quite sad and painful. And how you saw people were not bothered. People were not bothered. And it was sad. If you go to think about it in person, you would notice that that was a very, very unfair act. And it talks volumes about I've been reading about one of the letters that was written by Gashumba, useless elites. And that's true. That's true. You don't bypass someone who's in danger like that. And then you may be bypassing someone rushing for a church service. How stupid can you be? You understand? You're leaving Jesus. And you're running to find who you don't even know if he's there.
A Good Samaritan story in the Bible.
Yes, a priest bypassed a man.
Bypassed, yes.
You're running to go here and do God's work. This is most important. This is the real God's work. And if you look at this, who were passing them with cars, nice cars, some of them had even rosaries, others were professions or local card. Now you're thinking, and this is something, as I said earlier, as we celebrate such days, when do we revisit the places of faith in terms of our actions, in terms of how we relate with brethren? But Kirabo, today's celebration is quite unique, again, in times of COVID. And that's why I wanted to just, if you give me a minute, to just read the names of the martyrs, both for the Anglicans. They're about 43 in total. If we can just read them for our viewers to know who we are talking about. Then when we cluster them as martyrs, people we never know individually. But if I'm just to read verbatim, for example, in the Anglican Church, we had a gentleman called Kakumbe Makko. That was from Buganda. It was Anglican. Then we had also Rugarama Yusuf. Now that was also Anglican. Serwanga Nuwa, that was Anglican from Buganda. That is Bali Kudembe Joseph Mukasa, that was a Catholic, also from Uganda. Then Mukasa Musa was Buganda, also, but he was Anglican. Then Kagwa Andereya, that was from Bunyoro. but he was also Catholic. That is Ngondwe Ponsiano was from Buganda and he was Catholic. Sebugwawo Dennis was Catholic from Buganda. Bazekuketa Anatansio was Buganda and he was Catholic. Gonzaga Gonza was from Busoga, he was Catholic. Mbwa Elia, that was Anglican and was from Uganda. Mudwa Aguma, that was Anglican, was from Buganda. Murumba Matia was from Busoga, but also was Catholic. Now you look at Muwanga Daudi, that was Anglican from Buganda. Kaizi Chibuka was from Buganda and Anglican. Mawagali Nuwa was from Buganda and was Catholic. Mayanja Chitogo was from Buganda but also Anglican. Now Rwanga Karoli, Karoli Rwanga, famously also known as Karoli Rwanga, was from Buganda and was Catholic. Bana Bachintu Luka Bana Bachintu was Catholic from Uganda. Then Buza Baliawo Yakobo was from Buganda and was Catholic. Javira was from Buganda and Catholic. Chibuka Ambrosio was from Buganda and was Catholic. Now Chirigwajo Anatoli was from Bunyoro and was Catholic. Chiriwawamvu Mukasa was Catholic, also from Buganda. Chiwanuka Achireo was from Buganda and was Catholic. Chizito, or famously known as Chizito Muto, was from Buganda, he was Catholic. Now Ludigo Mukasa Adolf was from Toro and was Catholic. Mugaga was from Buganda, he was Catholic. Serunkuma Bruno was also from Buganda and he was Catholic. Now Kadoko Alexander was from Buganda and was, that is Anglican. Chifamunyanja was from Buganda, he was Anglican. Chiwanukaji Jiaza was from Buganda, also Anglican. Chiza Frederick was Anglican from Buganda. Kwabafu was from Buganda, was also Anglican. And Wachisiga Mukasa was from Buganda, Anglican. Luanga was from Buganda also, he was Anglican. Mubya Zarwa was from Buganda and also Anglican. Munyabaga Yangu Robert was from Buganda and was also Anglican. Muwanga Njijiga was from Buganda, was Anglican. Nakabandwa Danieli was also from Buganda, he was Anglican. And Warukaganua was from Buganda, Anglican. Waswa, Buganda, he was Anglican. And lastly, Muzei Jean Mary was from Buganda and Catholic. You do notice that the major people who composed the martyrs were from Busoga, but by far Baganda, a couple of them from Bunyoro. That is the depiction that is historical, because you notice that the earlier most recognized kingdoms were Buganda to start with, Busoga, and later on Bunyoro, Kitara. Now, the white men or the white man, when they came here, they could only access civility in those societies. They only found ripples for approach in those areas because they were the most orderly and civil societies then.
Having easy structures as well.
Definitely, they had structures. They had kings, they had kingdoms, they had subjects. Now, that's why you didn't see then. You didn't see Mnyankole Mata. You don't see Mcholi Mata then. You don't see Mugwere Mata. Those people had not yet organized themselves into some sensible civility of those times. So it was easy for these white men to penetrate structured kingdoms because they came, remember, they came in the disguise of help in terms of education, health, and of course security for that matter.
And indeed, when you talk about civility, one of the aspects that we attribute Christianity to is civility. Even when you look at current day Uganda, issues of education, issues of health have a very strong foundation regarding religion. Felix, when you talk about the martyrs, and of course we are going to be celebrating these martyrs, and the celebrations will be live on UBC TV. We know our team is already on ground, and anytime we'll be connecting to them to give you more of what is happening. I feel of what is happening on ground. Remember, this time around, yes, we're having the celebrations, but because of COVID, there are scientific celebrations with limited numbers. And therefore, you can only follow the happenings on UBC TV and our radio stations. We'll be giving you live updates from Namugongo there. But one other thing, Felix, that really, when you talk about these matters, yes, they were from kingdoms, like you said, because they were organized. We don't hear names of female martyrs. And also our brothers, the Muslims, among the first 40, are not well there, though we know that there were also Muslims who did not denounce their faith in Islam, and that is one of the reasons why they were martyred.
But if you've heard well about the Muslim matters, the explanation is a bit different from the Christian matters. Actually, for them, they were killed by Sekabaka Mutesa, not Mwanga. If you do also note that the calling into play of the Christian clerics who are meant to come and assist into, when the letter written by Sekabaka Mutesa, it was in bid to counter the growing number of Muslims in the kingdom, because he had started to fear for this. When you look at the story of what happened in Atete, it was a bit that they had started to practice other practices away from the kingdom practices. So it is this, for the Muslim, it is not Mwanga who killed him, it is Mutesa himself.
Mutesa direction, when circumcision became another issue, because according to that, they believed that one of the signs of showing, yes, you've converted to Islam, is circumcision. And Mutesa knew that if people do this, there's a clear indication that they have moved from what you believe in to something else. And there was a fear that once you're circumcised, you don't make it. But when people are being circumcised and they were healing, then you knew the movement was going to grow, and therefore execution was the best at that time to counter this growing move. It's all about issues of faith, and it's the reason we celebrate these people today. But a very important thing also to note is this impact in generations after generations. Felix earlier said it has no meaning if you only celebrate matters, but in our lives we don't really look at a turning point of why these people really died. The brotherly love, when you look at what is happening in our country today, do we still have that? When you look at the ill, the cancer of corruption, is this reflected in any way that this is a country, very few in the world, who have these huge numbers of martyrs and also recognized? When you look at events happening, how human beings today have turned against the other, and the Bible is very clear. How can you love God you've never seen, yet you do not love your brother that you've already seen? So do we see this really in our lives? That is something that you watching as we celebrate this day is a question that you'd ask yourself. Are we living martyr-like lives? These young boys, very devoted, even when they were aware that one was beheaded, the others were killed, and even their bodies burnt, but they still craved for Christianity. They still walked, and they were not diverted by the acts of Kabaka Mwanga, but still believed in their God. Felix, this clip has so much information that you've just watched, but really, have we done so much as a country to bring to attention the matters and their relevance?
Well, the problem is that the other question would be, whose role is it? Whose role is it? And depending on the roles you may share thereafter, then you will know the role of every party in this case. If you want to take it on a spectrum of let's start with the most primary, which is the state or the Roman Catholic Church, for that matter, being a sui generis. What has it done about making this great event be a common good for every subscriber to the Catholic faith, for example? In the video, you would clearly see some of the monuments and how they look like, how some of the places, these are historical sites. And guess what? Even if the church went out to seek and make these places more accessible, more beautified, or places of worship for that matter, they haven't done a very good work. I will excuse myself and say that there's so much that still needs to be done. Of course, there are challenges of finances and what. For example, most recent, there are challenges of land. when you look at Namugongo itself, by the way, it wasn't owned by the church. However, there's, if I'm not mistaken, a father from Holland. Then, how many years before even 1920? I think after 1920, when they bought that land, and they bought, I think they bought about 10 acres. And if you read from the archives, it is said that they were supposed to buy every acre at 100. Is it 200 shillings? 200 shillings, I think, every acre, because that was the place where, in fact, most of them were killed, but it was owned by another person. Now, there's the big challenge of land. I know this for a fact, having talked to a couple. There's a big challenge of land. Now, finding these sites are individually owned. Anyone who would want to sell it to you would want to hike the price and what. But I believe that church should interest itself to go into some associations or corporations, either with government, parastatals, or foreign agencies to preserve this beautiful heritage in terms of Uganda Matters. That's something we must do together, because if we don't, in the next 30, 50 years,
some of these sites
you'll find arcades on top of
go
some
to
of these
St. Valley
sites.
Kudembe. That place, over a time, the space is narrowing to what it was before.
You can imagine. In fact, the patron saint for Owino Market is St. Valley Kudembe. That's why it's called St. Valley Kudembe. But it's narrowing. Market.
Most of these, when you go to also Munyonyo, you're seeing the space that was there. It's also narrowing. Encroachers seem to be coming in, but these are sites we should protect so much, because away from the spiritual element, there is so much in the world of tourism, there's so much in the education sector in terms of research, and this is a goal that we have as a country. Well, we'll take a break, and we know our team in Namugongo is ready to ensure that they give you more regarding the Uganda Matters, take you through mass service, and of course, we just urge you that wherever you are, just take glued to our TV stations and radio stations, because they're going to be giving you events as they unfold at Namugongo. Okay, Felix, as we wait for our colleagues to come in, and that is the feed from Namugongo. We know this time around also traffic is not that very busy because most of the activities that would have happened are not going to be happening that way, because we know in the times of COVID-19. But now let me hand over to Jordan Lukoma, who is right in Namugongo. But we will be returning.
My name is Michael Jordan Lukomwa, and we are coming to you live from the Uganda Matters Shrine in Namugongo. And as I speak, I am standing at the Anglican Matters Shrine, still in Namugongo. It is a Thursday, the 3rd of June, Uganda Matters Day 2021. Yes, we are here in Namugongo, and we're going to give you the whole service live at the Matters Shrine, at the Anglican side of the Matters Shrine. We thank you so much for joining us. Do not miss any bit of the event and the whole service here at the Matters Shrine. Yes, who are the Uganda Matters? These are young men that were killed because they chose to believe in Christ and to follow Christ. And in the ears of the Sekabaka Mwanga of Uganda, they were betraying the rules and the norms of the kingdom of Buganda. That's why they were penalized and sentenced to death, and they became martyrs. They became great people in the history of the church. We want to know more about them and how we are celebrating the kind of state in which the place is and things like that. So join me, welcome the administrator of the shrine in the Anglican Church. We want to know more about the state of the shrine and what plans are there, with a picture of the Matters. Sir, good morning.
Good morning.
Just a reminder of your name.
I'm Enoch Rukundo, the administrator of this place.
Yes, Mr. Rukundo. So how is this place as we speak currently? We have heard of a lot of initiatives being put up here, the museum, the kind of worship center, a number of initiatives, plus that a lot that we don't know. Give us the information.
We thank God for this day as we remember these our faithful servants, the Uganda Matters. And actually today, as we are here to celebrate, as we invited a few people so that probably they can represent the bigger number because of the increasing COVID-19 cases going on. But this is a great site, and it's a holy place, it's a holy site of Uganda, because Namugongo started from here. You know, the Christianity part all started from the sacrifice of these young people. And the blood of these martyrs is actually the seed of Christianity in Uganda. So we are in the process of redeveloping this site, this unique site, to a world-class tourist center.
Okay, we'll come to that after. Give us a historical picture. How many Anglican martyrs are on the list?
This was the main execution center, and 25 martyrs were actually killed here. And of the 25, 12 were Catholics, 13 were Anglicans. So these young people were united in faith. This was an execution center for anyone that disobeyed the king. So when we talk about Namugongo, it's not only martyrs. It was anybody who was a threat to the throne of the king. So you find Namugongo who existed way even before the martyrs were killed. It started in 1760 by the 25th king of Uganda. His martyrs were executed in 1886 by the 31st king of Uganda. So you find very many people were killed before the death of these people. But these martyrs, we remember, they disobeyed the king because of believing in the Christian faith and diverting from the old tradition. And that's why we remember them. This is the day they were actually set on fire. They spent an entire week in this place being tortured, and one would want to know how exactly all these places have been put up in a museum. When someone reaches this place and enters the museum core site, he really sees the actual execution. They tell the story. And on this day, 3rd June, is when they were set on fire. The king had a fear that much as they had died even, he had to burn them up so that they don't come back to life like the Christ they believed in.
Okay, so when do we get this particular site of the Anglican side to start building it, to start its recognition as a center for the memory of these young men that were killed?
This was established way back, but in remembrance of the martyrs, we started when these martyrs were canonized. That is 1960. But of the majority, 25 killed in this execution center.
I had an argument on social media, actually I have an opportunity for you to clear it, that Anglicans do not believe in martyrs. We don't pray to them. As Anglicans, we don't look at them. How does the Anglican Church look or value a martyr?
Now this is the Anglican perspective. These martyrs are unique. These young people gave up their lives. So for us, we learn from their story. We learn from their journey, the road to martyrdom, so that as ourselves, because everyone has their own journey of salvation, the journey of the unknown. So we want to learn from the martyrs, and we see if it was you in this same place, could you have done? So we come to increase on our faith in God. So we believe these young people died, but they did not resurrect. So there is no point in us Anglicans to hear someone saying, martyrs pray for me. Yes, they died. We respect them, we remember them, we celebrate them, but they did not resurrect. We only pray through Jesus Christ our Lord, who resurrected, and we all say amen. Yes, so because the Catholics believe these are saints, so they are close to God. So when they pray to them, because they are holy martyrs, and intercede on their behalf, their problems can easily be heard, and the miracles and so on. Yes, so they say, martyrs pray for me, Saint Chisito pray for me. Anglicans, not really. They died, they didn't resurrect, yes. So we pray through Jesus Christ our Lord.
You are the administrator of this place. What kind of efforts are there? We know about the museum, we know about a planned construction here of a big worship center. Let's start with the museum. This was an idea of the late Archbishop Dr. Livingstone Palanyikoyoyo. Since he departed life, how much has been added on and what is still lacking? Is it a finished kind of project, or there is still more that you are doing and expect to do?
Now, the late Archbishop had a very big dream that's even beyond the museum core site. That is, we call it a core site because it's only housing the remains of martyrs, the actual execution centers and their burial ground. However, this site it needs to be redeveloped to a world-class standard. Now, the dream is big, like you used to dream. Dream big, start small, act quickly. So we have in place the amphitheater, which will be able to house the increasing number of pilgrims who are coming to access this site. When COVID will be done, and we pray that it goes, we believe the bigger number of people who will be coming to this place will be able to sit comfortably and pray from this site. So there is a big committee in place, led by Bishop Jackson Matovu. Yes, and this project is under the province of the Church of Uganda. That is the great thing, that this was the vision of Nkoyoyo, but we have the vision carriers, and the province is in charge. The Archbishop, our current Archbishop, he was mentored by the late, so we believe a lot will happen to make sure that this site is transforming.
Okay. But after the death of Archbishop Nkoyoyo, how much has been added to this vision of his?
Okay. Now, after Bishop Livingstone left us when we were working on the finishes, and we are done with the museum, the finishes are done, and we worked on fencing the entire land of the Anglican site. So we built a perimeter wall. We worked on putting up 2 public toilets. We put up a drainage system. So a lot has taken place, and we are still lobbying for more. And the construction of the amphitheater, for example, that is happening in this second phase has commenced, and we have started the contractors on site. So the dream is big, but we are working on it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rukunda. I'll cut this discussion short, but towards the end of this service, please, I'll look for you. We need to tell the public a lot more about the works here. Why am I cutting Mr. Rukunda short? Is because I can see the procession of the clergymen and women coming in to lead the service, and I am so sure they are led by Archbishop Dr. Samuel Stephen Kazemba Mugalu, and they are coming in. You must be seeing the procession on your screen. Who are the Anglican martyrs? I'll just give you a few of the names. Aclius Chiwanuka, he was killed on the 3rd of June 1886. Adolphus Ludigo Mukasa, Atanasio Bazekuketa, Charles Ruanga, and others. The number is big, but the procession is here for the clergymen and the choir that is going to lead the service here at the Anglican Matters Worship Center in Namugongo. A lot is being done here to ensure that the place is given that weight that it deserves. I can see a proposed Uganda Matters Amphitheater, Namugongo Church of Uganda, and we are going to show you all that. This time round, the service is going to be scientific because of the COVID-19. We are a very few people in here. There are just a few tents. Just on my left here, that's why the Archbishop and the clergy are going to sit, and a few guests will sit on the tent just on my right. We thank you so much for being part of the service. Please follow on UBC TV. We'll give the whole service to the end, and you will not miss any beats. Just to mention a few faces here that I can see. I have seen Bishop of Mukono, the Right Reverend William Sebakala.
Thank you, Jordan, there for giving us a feel of actually what is happening. I and Felix will now hand over to the team at the Anglican Shrines to take you through the processions. And of course, right now we are seeing all is set, the procession where the leaders in the Anglican faith are going to be leading service throughout. And of course, the service is expected by latest 9. It will have begun, and of course being led by the Archbishop of the Church of Uganda, Dr. And we'll be having that on the Catholic side equally. Their mass actually would begin a little bit earlier. According to their program, it was around 8 that they would have begun, but we are giving what is happening from the Anglican side. Please keep it with us. We will see you through till the end of the activities at Namugongo. Have a lovely day. Keep it with us. Do not bother yourself for movements, because everything is very clear here on UBC TV. And don't forget, even our radio stations are also broadcasting the same. Till tomorrow, keep it at Namugongo on UBC TV.
Here is the service. We're celebrating Uganda Matters Day, 3rd June 2021.